All right, the essential question that we've dealt with today, the big unit essential question is how do we work mathematically with polynomials? And then the smaller questions we dealt with and we want to answer tonight is how do you square a binomial? And then how do you find the product of a sum and difference? With the SPI being 3102.3.2, operate with polynomials and simplify results. All right, so let's just go ahead and get started. All right, how do you square a binomial? As if you look at this, the x plus 8 squared, if you just want to look at it, your first thought would be just to say, okay, x squared be x squared, and then plus a positive 8 plus 64. But the problem is we're missing our middle term here. So what you really do is look at the formula up here. I say a plus b squared, which in this case would be the x and plus 8 squared. The formula for this is going to be a squared plus 2ab, so I'm going to take the two terms here, the a and the b, multiply those together, and then multiply that by 2, and that's going to give me my middle term here. And of course my b term is going to be the 8, so I can just simply square it. So let's just go ahead and give it a shot on this one. And okay, so if I say x, well, x squared, that's going to be right there. So if you look at this, that's fine. That's your first term. Now, the part we have to do is focus on this middle term. Okay, my a and b, so that means I've got to multiply the x times the 8. Well, that's going to give me positive 8x, but then I have to multiply that by 2. So 8 times 2 is 16x. Again, I carry the x because I multiplied 8 times 1x, the one I understood to be there, and then just multiply that by 2. And then the last term, take 8 and square it. That's going to give me plus 64. Alright, so let's look at it. Let's do another one. Go right here. Now this one, it's a negative in the middle. Not going to change a thing. It's not going to change any bit of our process. Just have to pay close attention to the negative. That's the only difference. So here, remember, I say n squared, just fine. But then to get my middle term, I'm going to multiply these together. I have a negative 7. Don't forget your negative. Always look in front of the number and it'll tell you whether it's positive or negative. Negative 7 times n, that's going to be negative 7n. But I can't forget to multiply that by 2. So I'm going to have minus 14n. And then finally, negative 7 squared. Any negative that's squared is still going to be a positive. So here, n squared, negative 7 times the n, negative 7, multiply that by 2, as the rule says, and then I just square my b term, and in this case, negative 7 squared is going to be 49. Alright, let's move on to the next one, and I'm going to give you guys a second. I'm just going to pause and give you a second to work this, or you can pause it before you actually look at it and see how it's worked. So let's look at it. 2x, again, I'm just going to square that one. That's going to give me my first term. Okay, 2x squared, so I will say, okay, 4x squared. My middle term, multiply these two together, which is 18, and 18 times 2 is going to be 36. So I'll say plus 36x, don't forget your variable, and then finally, to get my b term, 9 squared plus 81. Alright, let's continue on. We'll just work a couple more just for practice. By now you may be nailing this pretty good. So let's look at this one. And 3s squared, 9s squared. My middle term, so I'm going to draw them change my color. My middle term, multiply these two together, and you're going to get 27s. But then I have to say, okay, 27 times 2 is going to give me 54. So I have to say plus 54s, cannot forget that variable. And then finally, I go to the last one, and I'm going to say, okay, 9 squared plus 81. So now I've broken it down. Alright, another one here. And I'm still working with positives. Here in a second we're going to switch over and work just a couple negatives. Like I said, the process is going to be the exact same. Just got to pay attention to the negative is all. Here, 2n, square it, gives you 4n squared. And then multiply the two together. 2n times 7, that gives me 14. And when I say 14 times 2, I'm going to give me 28. So I say plus 28n. And then the last one, again, just simply square the last term, plus 49. And it's as simple as that, especially with positives. I mean, it's just making sure. One of the biggest mistakes is just multiplying these two together and stopping. Make sure that you multiply the product of these two by 2, and to get that final middle term there. All right, here's one that's negative. So let's just work through this. If I look and I say 5m squared, doesn't change. Again, that's the same process. You have 25m squared. Then again, the same, like I said, the same thing. Multiply 5m times negative 2. Again, pay attention to that negative there. That'll get you. So 5 times negative 2 is going to be negative 10. And then don't forget to multiply that by 2. Negative 20m. And then negative 2 squared, the negative squared, and you're going to get plus 4. Alright, so see, the process is still the same. Just don't let that negative throw you off. Alright, last one. I have 4x minus 6 and squared. 4x, so 4 squared, you got 16x squared, as in essentially I'm squaring the 4, 2, or the x I mean, and then multiply 4 times negative 6, it's going to be 24, negative 24, and then take the negative 24 and multiply that by 2. And then once I do that, I'm going to get a negative 48 minus 48x. And then the last term here, take negative 6, square it, plus 36. And that is positives and negatives, how you square a binomial. Now, if you weren't in class, this is what we did in class in the workbook. We just took on page 235, 1, 4, 7, and 10, and just practice those. So if you're watching this at home and you haven't, if you were out of class, sick or whatever, just work through these and practice, and then you can definitely check them with me tomorrow or whenever you come back to class. Alright, now here's the second question. How do you find the product of a sum and difference? Now, if you look at this, your first thought is, okay, I'm multiplying parentheses, oh, FOIL. But what we have to pay attention to is there's a couple things here. They're both the exact same. You got x cubed, and 8 and 8. Well, only difference is I have a plus and a minus, so I have a positive and a negative. 8 cubed plus 8 times 8 cubed minus 8. Now this one, it's so easy to overthink, but simply if I just know my rules with exponents, Not a problem. I'm multiplying. So if I multiply x cubed times x cubed, then I know that I'm going to just add my exponents. X to the 6th power, and then I have a positive 8 and a negative 8. X to the 6th, when I multiply those together, I get x to the 6th minus 64. Alright, so again, let's look at this one. We'll work through a couple of these and then we'll be done. So if I look, I know, okay, I pay attention, I see, oh, it's x and x plus 9 and minus 9. The exact same, except the operation is just opposite. So that tells me I just multiply it out. X times x, I say x squared. And then I say, okay, positive 9 minus 81, because positive times a negative is going to be a negative. Alright, here's one. If I have 6 plus m squared and 6 minus m squared, here, I'm just going to say there's nothing different. 6 times 6, 36. Positive m squared, negative m squared, minus m to the 4th. Just add my exponents, and it's a positive times a negative. There's no different whatsoever. Alright, let's work just a couple more. Here you have 3c and 3c minus 4 plus 4. Exact same numbers, opposite operation. Here, 3c times 3c, well, I know 9c, don't forget to add that there's an understood 1 to be there. Add those two together, 9c squared, and then negative 4 times a positive 4 minus 16. Alright, and again, in your workbook, page 236, if you're out of class, just do page or numbers 28, 31, 34, and 37 for practice. And I said you're definitely welcome to come in and check it. And that's how you square a binomial, and then you find the product of a sum and difference.